Tots tackles the OG boogeyman, and he's never looked better. Here's a look at the brand new Trick or Treat Studios Screen Greats Halloween's Michael Myers. Trick or Treat Studios is proud to present the officially licensed Halloween 1978 Michael Myers action figure as part of their Scream Greats Series 1 collection. Scream Greats features iconic characters from some of our favorite cinematic masterpieces. Each highly detailed figure is in an 8-inch scale and be perfect for display in any collection. Michael Myers includes an interchangeable right arm with knife-gripping right hand position, knife and pumpkin accessory, packed on a backer card with plastic blister. What exactly are behind those blackest eyes? We'll try to find that out in this review, but first I'd like to thank the folks over at Trick or Treat Studios that did provide the sample of the brand new Scream Greats Halloween 1978 Michael Myers, so we can have a look at this review. The figure, as well as all the other Scream Greats, are available over on their site right now for $34.99. As it is right now, Michael Myers is currently in stock. The figure isn't quite, though, 8 inches. If I can get this as close as I can, you're looking at the figure being just a few hairs shorter than 8 inches. He's actually more or less about 7 3/4 of an inch in height, or the figure is going to be about 20 centimeters tall. Now, those that are looking for posability with these new Scream Greats are going to be a bit disappointed. These are actually more throwbacks to the original figures that we would have got from the days of like the movie Maniacs or the cult classic days of the early 2000s, while coming from a different company altogether. From a comparison standpoint, I did want to bring in, speaking of cult classics, Michael Myers, I think the one I'm just bringing in right now happens to be a knockoff, but you get the same idea that the body is going to be very similar in a staction way. They're about the same size to one another. If you did want to, for example, compare it with more of an Ultimate release, then here's also what he looks like with the Halloween 2 Michael Myers, also from NECA Toys. Comparing the two, obviously, this one is about the same size as one another. Obviously, he is going to be a lot taller, though, than the Ultimate Michael Myers from Halloween 2. The boogeyman does get himself a couple of accessories. The figure comes included with a jack-o'-lantern. The jack-o'-lantern is that of the original 1978 design, so it does have that little cut that leads then up to the little triangular shape that it has for its nose. The interior looks to be a more lighter coloring of yellow, while the outer husk or skin of the pumpkin has been nicely colored in a darker orange color. There's a few little imperfections that one would expect to go along with the pumpkin. There is no light-up features or anything along those lines, but all in all, though, a nice-looking jack-o'-lantern. I wonder if we are going to be getting other future Michael Myers from the Scream Greats line. I certainly hope so. The figure also as well comes included with his butcher knife. The butcher knife looks to be cast here in silver plastic, while they have taken the time to paint the handle in a much darker brown. There are a few little sections, of course, that have the little riveted points, the two halves, of course, of the wooded handle, sandwiched on either side of the blade, and nicely painted on both sides from Trick or Treat Studios. It fits into his hand, although it doesn't really fit necessarily into this hand. The fact that the figure does have relaxed hands, you can kind of just wedge it in there, but it doesn't really stay properly in place. Instead, rather, Michael Myers comes included with an alternate arm. It comes with one that's already pre-bent. So if you wanted to have him, for example, holding the knife, the hand and the arm really to go along with it is the best option for that. Now, it's a case, obviously, of just popping off the arm that he has on this side already and just replace it with the entire arm. I think there may also be a way to swap the hands out, although I've heard some issues where the peg actually ended up breaking. So may have been possible. I don't know if I would really run the risk of trying to remove the hand if you want to swap it out with more just the flat or relaxed arm instead. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to commit to having the arm and the hand together as one piece. I'm only just going to replace the entire arm. The arm actually was a lot easier to remove. It didn't involve, in fact, any heating of it with either a hairdryer or hot water. Just pop and completely divorce the forearm from the rest of his body. And then take, of course, the bent arm and snap it in place. It fits, again, fairly easy. Very little force was really required to pop that out and replace it out. Again, it does have now the new hand. The hand is better than for holding the knife. Just be careful when you are putting it in his hand because the grip is very close. You can see how close the fingers are to the palm, for example. So when you're putting it in place, you just want to make sure you don't put pressure against the blade in case it snaps off the handle. And that's what Michael Myers then looks like with the knife in his hand. I will probably want to try to heat this to see if I can twist this around a little bit. There seems to be resistance. And obviously resistance usually tells me not to twist it any further and for the risk that could snap, just break right off. It doesn't seem like it's going to be snapping off. It does look like there's a little bit of posability. I can see if I can heat that up just a little bit, if I can twist it out just a little bit better than what it is right now. But that's what Michael Myers looks like then with the bent arm. I will prefer to have him displayed like this myself as opposed to having him with the relaxed arms. There is also a release of this one. I think it was the H45 anniversary that had him more in the green coveralls. This is actually approaching the figure kind of more in a charcoal gray like he had in the movie. A debatable topic, of course. Many people debate, of course, the colors of which Michael Myers would have been wearing the coveralls in the film. Many people would say spruce green. Spruce green was the accurate color, but depending on when you see and how you see the original 1978 film, some would say it's blue, some would say it's black, some would even say it's dark gray. They went the approach of actually doing this in a darker gray, but I would love to get my hands at some point on that H45 anniversary release that has the colors more of in a green color. That being said, let's get a closer look at the Michael Myers head sculpt. For me, at least, I would say this is the best Michael Myers head that we've gotten of a smaller scale. Now, Trick or Treat has also done very well the 1978 Michael Myers and all the follow-up films in a 6-scale size as well. And I think they've been knocking out of the park for those figure head sculpts also. But I mean, just to look at this from all the sides, there's nothing where I would look at this and think that doesn't look at all like Michael Myers. One thing it does do, though, as you can see, they've colored in the eyes completely, so there's really no way to actually see the eyes inside the sockets of the mask, and I prefer it that way myself. I mean, the one thing with having eyes visible like this, you have to have them far enough back so you get that recessed area, the very dark shadowed sections where you can really very barely make out his eyes inside the mask. I, again, prefer the fact that they actually did instead paint the inside of his eye cavities so they're completely black, the blackest eyes, the devil's eyes. Head sculpt, though, is really good on this one. They've even actually brushed a little bit of skin reveal down below here, because originally this would have been Don Post, a William Shatner, or Captain Kirk mask. And, of course, they would have just painted over top in white. So some of the areas underneath the mask, for example, start to reveal a little bit of that flesh tone, and they've nicely done that again here on the figure mask. Again, like, this is one of the best Michael Myers masks that we've ever gotten, I think, in a figure form. The hair is really nicely done here also as well. You can see the sections where, for example, the sideburns would have been completely torn away. The back of the hair does have a little bit of the curl on the sides that he would have for the film. I would have probably even just curled them up just a little bit more, because a lot of people usually coin this as he sort of has like kind of devil horns on the sides of his hair. But all in all, though, a really good, one of the best, if not the best, head sculpts that we've gotten. And again, it comes to us from Trick or Treat Studios. Between what they've done with the 6-scale release of the 78 Myers and now what they're doing with the Scream Greats, they know exactly how to sculpt a proper Michael Myers. As I already did say, though, the rest of the body is going to be snaction, at least really like this part down. He has the open collar, which of course does have the pop collar up. This is not quite a soft plastic, but it's got a little bit of give to it. Colored very nicely, again, in a more darker, kind of very dark gray, as opposed to going the route of the green. Again, he's got the skin tone here. The skin tone, that's a hard thing to say. It's a little bit darker in color, a little bit darker complexion. I will say, though, one thing they've also really done, not only just landing a perfect likeness to his mask, but they've also given a slightly more tapered off or very thin bodied frame of Nick Castle would have portrayed the role in the film. All in all, though, again, just a really nice looking figure. If you are a fan of like the original movie Maniacs, I grew up loving movie Maniacs in the early 2000s. That was the thing I was collecting the most. This does really resonate and is really, in a way, passing the torch off to another company. And they're really running it now. Trick or Treat Studios, that is, with a superior looking Michael Myers. If you can really overlook the fact it doesn't have really any posability from like this section down, boy, oh boy, it's a nice looking sculpt. Now, for the posability on this figure, the top of the head is going to be on a ball joint, so you can rotate the head fully around. If you want that signature slight tilt that Michael has when he's looking up at Bob, successfully can be pulled off by the fact it does have a ball joint. I mean, really, you could even rotate the head all the way around. Not that you really would want to, but you could twist it all the way around if you want. The arms do hinge out. Now, they come out at 90 degrees, whether you decide you want to use, say, this arm, or you want to revert it back to having more just the relaxed arm. Either way, they hinge. I mean, you can see how much of a range that single hinge possesses. Now, again, he does have what I think to be swiveling in his hands, although there is a little bit of resistance. Like, even as I'm turning it right now, it's almost telling me I probably shouldn't turn it any further. By the way that they've attached it, leads me to think that there is some swiveling in the wrist, but I don't want to twist it too much for the case that I might be shredding the actual peg and popping it off. Now, again, the same thing also applies for this arm as well. This hand does look like there's a little bit of swivel, but it doesn't seem like it swivels a whole lot. Then we get down to the actual boots. Nothing I really spend a lot of time talking about in this review. The boots have been nicely done to the original 1978 boots. These were green Vietnam era, I think, Ultima jungle boots. Nicely colored here with that little bit of green also in the top. That's one thing that companies, when they do Michael Myers, don't tend to color that little bit of green. And I'm glad to see they actually did that. You'll also be glad to see as well that the figure does have pegals on the undersides of his feet. Although really, Michael Myers doesn't have any tough time to stand. But if you wanted to put him on a display stand, I think it would have been fun if they could have included a display stand, for example, called a big circular black display stand, would have had screen grates. It wouldn't necessarily even have to have, for example, like the name of the movie. I don't think it necessarily need to have like the original 1978 font or logo for Halloween. Even if they just gave us a black stand that had screen grates written across the front of it, I think that would be one way to also make this line consistent if you wanted to have them all on the shelf. But boy, what a nice looking figure. Looking at what we had already gotten with the announcements from Trick or Treat Studios and the fact that they were going to be tackling the screen grates, I knew right away that this was the line for 2024 for me. And now seeing Michael Myers, of course, we will be looking at the rest of the screen grates courtesy of the folks over at Trick or Treat Studios, but had to start it, of course, with the original 1978 Michael Myers. And I don't think he's ever looked this good. I mean, yeah, granted, he doesn't have some of the posability that other companies have possessed with their ultimate releases of Michael Myers. But overlooking that, if you are a fan of the original movie Maniac line, that of course only really had relegated shoulder swivels and swivels in the hands and in the head, boy, this is a great follow-up. A baton, a passing, if you will, from the original movie Maniacs to what we're now getting with Trick or Treat Studios. If you ask me, I think having a 6 scale or having an 8-inch scale, I should say, a figure line, I think it's in the right hands of giving it to Trick or Treat Studios. They've been knocking again out of the park when it comes to the 6 scale releases of Michael Myers. They've done it equally as good, almost even better, I think, on the head sculpt on this one, on a smaller 8-inch release of Michael. Early in the days of 2000, if you were a horror fan, you were likely collecting movie Maniacs. Some of the figures had questionable likenesses, but they had limited articulation also as well. And, you know, to be said and fair about that original line, there was a charm that went along with the movie Maniacs, and what we were getting back then, at least, from McFarlane Toys, were some of the best horror figures around. Since then, of course, over the years and over the decades, companies have now picked up properties and releasing their own line of horror figures. But in a way, though, what we're getting here from the Screen Grates and Trick or Treat Studios is a throwback to those original retro toys, and I'm loving every one of them I've seen so far. Michael Myers, of course, does have still the limited articulation that the original movie Maniacs Michael Myers would have had, only really relegated to the shoulders, the hands, and of course the head. But that's all I really need when it comes to a retro line. And I think that Trick or Treat understands that. They know exactly what category and what collectors these are geared towards. They're gearing it not necessarily to collectors that want super articulation, but the collectors like myself that were collecting early days in 2000s and collect those movie Maniacs and all those horror figures with very limited articulation. What I will say, though, about the newer stuff with Trick or Treat is that the Scream Grates, while still having limited imposability, more than makes up for it, though, with a stellar-looking head sculpt of Michael Myers. While he's limited, yes, on posability, the head sculpt is one of the best, if not the best, we've gotten from a Michael Myers, even though it's on a figure that has a staction body. He has articulation, I think, where it counts. In the shoulders, the hand, I think, is still kind of questionable. And, of course, he has a full ball joint motion in the head sculpt. Of course, he also comes included with a butcher knife. He comes with an alternate arm. So if you wanted to swap it out altogether, swapping, of course, the option of then giving him posability in his elbows, just popping out the arm, I think, made more sense. And, of course, he also comes included with that classic 1978 jack-o'-lantern. A big fan of the original movie Maniacs. I can really see myself being a big fan of the Scream Grates from what we've seen so far. What do you guys think of this line? Let me know down below in the comment section. I'm calling it right now. I think Scream Grates from at least a horror collector is going to be the big line for 2024. Big thank you once again to the folks over at Trick or Treat Studios that did provide the sample of the brand new Scream Grates Halloween 1978 Michael Myers. We can have a look in this review. The figure, once again, is available over on their site for $34.99, and I think all of right now the Scream Grates are stocked over on their store. So again, if you guys are interested, you can click the link down below that will take you on over to their site and pick up the Scream Grates today. Of course, we will, while we are wrapping up things right now for the OG Boogeyman, we will, of course, be looking at the rest of the Scream Grates, courtesy of the folks over at Trick or Treat Studios. If you guys enjoyed this video, I want to hit with a like. If you guys love the content you guys are seeing, and you'd like to stick around for the rest of the reviews of Scream Grates, if you haven't already done so, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below. And if you haven't already done so, make sure you turn on the bell notification, and most importantly, make sure you're coming back on a regular basis. As always, guys, thanks for watching. See you guys next time.